The town also encourages its citizens to utilize used fryer oil to produce their own biodiesel for traditional vehicles. In 2004, Palmyra, New Jersey integrated the River Line light rail system as part of the Delaware River Waterfront Project. The River Line follows the historic 19th century rail line the town was developed on. The original line accommodated both commuter and freight trains, but in the early 1960s, passenger service was discontinued. As part of the Delaware River Waterfront Project, the new River Line reintroduced passenger service, providing a cleaner, more energy-efficient way for commuters and tourists to travel the rejuvenated waterfront. Each ride cost $1.10, with the line running from Camden, New Jersey, where you can find the aquarium and Rutgers University, to the capital city of Trenton, New Jersey. The River Line completes the passenger line network, allowing commuters to make connections to Philadelphia, New York, and DC commuter trains, decreasing bridge and tunnel traffic. Due to the great success of the River Line, the public bus service also expanded, putting stops at each train station, completing links to the surrounding areas. We would now like to ask for any questions regarding this livability principle.
All right, I will get us started here a little bit. I'm going to start with some of the questions that are up on our board here. See, let's just take a look here. We'll start with the high-speed trains question, and this is going to tie in, I think, also to a lot of interest here from our audience in light rail in Louisville and the possibilities of that. But they want to know about high-speed trains as a viable option in the United States. And just as a reminder to everybody, at the back of your agendas, there's a list of all of the agency representatives, and they are in the order that they are sitting left to right. So that'll help us out a little bit if you want to know who we're addressing questions to, who's answering questions. Well, I think this is probably a DOT place to begin. Mr. Cheatham?
I was just talking to my cohort here from Federal Transit, and we were thinking this is high-speed rail. That's our other DOT cohort, the FRA, Federal Rail, and we don't have a representative here. As you're aware, the administration had $8 billion put forth for high-speed rail, and the selections of those particular locations, I believe, is to around the country. And I think your question was, is it viable? Was it viable for
the United States first, and then what you might know about here in Louisville and possibilities for light rail or other high-speed transit?
Yeah, so I'm probably pro for it. So for the high-speed rail, I think that it is a viable option. Now, obviously, having ridden the ones in Europe just last fall, a year and a half ago, it's going to take some effort. And I think the timing is that you have to get the time down where it matches within at least a reasonable half hour, 45 minutes of what the air time within a space to get to a certain location. Otherwise, you know, it's support. Obviously, it's a capital investment and a pretty heavy one, and maintaining it is the issue. As we can see from all the rail, I won't go into all that. I'll let my cohort talk about the rail side in terms of that effort, but it is a capital investment that I would support myself. So.
Well, I would support high-speed rail too, and like my partner said, it's not actually a transit system; it's a federal railroad passenger system. And as far as its contribution to Louisville, I think that would have to be something that would be very heavily studied because one of the keys to high-speed rail is the minimum number of stops. Every time you stop, you slow down, and you lose the effectiveness of high speed. And whether Louisville can support a stop on a high-speed rail system will be dependent upon what kind of ridership has a destination of Louisville and what kind of ridership has a departure from Louisville.
Okay.
So it would take quite a bit of analysis, I think, to justify a high-speed rail stop in Louisville. Yeah. And I'm not sure it will provide that much in terms of sustainable community.
Well, let me take a little bit of a broader question then, and this would be for everybody at the table, really. How would the local community be involved in a federally funded transportation project? If we're interested in increasing our use of the bus system that we have, changing that around, how would the people out here in the audience be involved in making that happen? What would you like to see from them?
Well, first of all, I assume you have a Metropolitan Planning Association, and that's the starting point, because those folks are the expertise locally in what the transportation needs of Louisville are. And once they determine that there may be a alternative to be implemented in Louisville, then there's going to be a chance for public comment. And that's how the local community needs to be involved. They need to be aware of any public comment sections, and they need to participate in them heavily.
So as advocates, go ahead.
Let me just add a little bit more to that. And I was talking to Jose Sepulveda here, who is the division administrator for our Kentucky office here, and some of his staff are in the back here. But the local planning organization that Tom talked about is the first kind of entity to get involved with, particularly in the Louisville area, since it's a TMA in our vernacular. The projects or the effort starts at that level in terms of getting a project on the board for federal, particularly for federal funds in terms of federal highways and federal transit, because it's kind of a joint in the planning world. It's a joint agency effort. And once those projects and the locals, you choose the money. The money is from Congress in terms of highway side and transit side are portioned by Congress, and then we portion it out to each one of the states. And Louisville itself gets a certain amount certain amount of funding, and they in turn choose the projects. You determine which projects you want to do that are federally funded. It's just that the federal side says, here's the rules you got to play by, in ensuring that those meet certain standards. And then as they roll up to the state DOT, and the state DOT puts it in a transportation improvement program, which covers the whole state, of course, and that's where we actually sign off on that, the agencies, and say, okay, this is what you intend to do for this first year, second year, third year, in your annual biennium, what you've chosen. These are the projects you're going to do, and here's the amount of money as you've dedicated or allocated to that federally, and what the match is for the local side. So you choose the projects. So your involvement in that effort that's where you get the real involvement in detail in terms of determining what goes on. Now, obviously, there are some rules, and I could talk for quite a while in terms of what those efforts are in pots of monies where those things all go, what the eligibility are, and what the qualifications are. But if you're involved in the planning organization's efforts, and they do reach out, and then the state efforts in terms of the efforts that goes on around in terms of projects in the community, you determine what they are. The feds don't do that.
I want to see if there's a follow-up or a non-texter question out there. I'm just going to take a peek over here. And while we're doing this, also because I think the next thing that I'd like to get into a little bit is how the other agencies are involved in these transportation efforts. Yes, sir.
First of all, have you ever dealt with KIPTA or Kentucky Planning and Design? And also, I'm a wee bit disappointed, and I sure hope the rest of our good panelists, did you not do research on our area here, in the local area? Golly, light rail has been an incredible important part of this community for 20-some years. And we do have studies. Oh, bloody hell, we have plenty of studies. So please take off your hat of the national and put your hat on what would you do to help us in this Louisville community. And as far as KIPTA, I'd rather schedule a colonoscopy than schedule a meeting with KIPTA. So, thank you.
All righty. Well, again, I'd like to say this is the beginning of the conversation, and so I hope that you're not expecting us to get everything perfect for you today.